Why buy gold? You've probably heard these reasons before. Stock market volatility, dollar crisis, economic collapse, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. But probably the most important reason you should buy gold is for diversification. You've heard it before, but you never want to put all of your eggs in one basket. It gives me peace of mind, knowing that I own something real, tangible, and helps me to sleep better at night. Gold is considered a safe haven asset, a potential hedge against inflation and an eroding dollar. It's physical, meaning you can hold it in your hand, and you can pass it on to your children and your grandchildren. The company that I trust, that I do business with, is Goldline. Give them a call right now. Speak to a representative or click the link below to download a free investor kit. Find out if buying gold and silver is right for you. Do it today, because there's no better time to prepare. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Greene. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It's Monday, October 12th, 2015. The United States of America is fighting a proxy war in Syria, meaning that the United States is really fighting Russia and Russia is really fighting the United States. You notice as a result of direct meddling, illegal intervention in this part of the world, whether or not it's Syria or Ukraine, the United States acts and Russia reacts. Obama acts, meddles in this part of the world, even though he promised Americans he wouldn't before he was elected president in his first term, and Vladimir Putin reacts. Obama acts in Ukraine, trying to unsuccessfully topple, well actually kind of successfully, but then unsuccessfully topple the regime in Ukraine, and Putin reacts. The president unsuccessfully aims to topple the Bashar al-Assad government, and Putin reacts. Putin sends missiles as a result. Putin airstrikes Syria as a result to team up with his ally in the name of Bashar al-Assad. President of the United States, Barack Obama, was interviewed on 60 Minutes yesterday. And the interviewer, his name escaping me at the moment because I really don't turn into mainstream boob tube that much anymore, said something along the lines, actually asked a tough question of Mr. Obama, the president, Barack Hussein, insane in the membrane. He said something like, to the extent that Vladimir Putin, Mr. President, is challenging your leadership. And Obama just kind of sat there. He was like, really? Really? He's challenging my leadership?
You said a year ago that the United States, America leads, we're the indispensable nation. Mr. Putin seems to be challenging that leadership.
In what way? Let's think about this.
Well, he's moved troops into Syria, for one.
Yeah.
He's got people on the ground.
Right.
Two, the Russians are conducting military operations in the Middle East for the first time since World War II. Bombing the people that we are supporting.
So that's leading, Steve? So let me ask you this question. When I came into office, Ukraine was governed by a corrupt ruler who was a stooge of Mr. Putin. Syria was Russia's only ally in the region. And today, rather than being able to count on their support and maintain the base they had in Syria, which they've had for a long time, Mr. Putin now is devoting his own troops, his own military, just to barely hold together by a thread his sole ally.
He's challenging your leadership, Mr. President. He's challenging your leadership.
Steve, I got to tell you, if you think that running your economy into the ground and having to send troops in order to prop up your only ally is leadership, then we've got a different definition of leadership.
I mean, this guy's an idiot. He really is. He only shows and showcases the weakness of the United States of America. I mean, this is the same guy who's radically changed policy with countries like Iran, where he's now negotiating with these nuke deals, etc., ad nauseum, only demonstrates the weakness of the United States of America as a superpower. You see, Vladimir Putin hasn't just challenged the President of the United States, he's humiliated the President of the United States. Vladimir Putin hasn't just challenged the USA, its government, but he's humiliated it. He showed the U.S. for what it really is, meddling in the affairs of others in the Middle East, arming the terrorists on the ground, these moderate terrorists, supplying them with weapons of war. You know, what's amazing to me is most Americans don't even realize what Benghazi Gate was. That the whole conspiracy, which is now just out in the open, a big light was shined on it, was the fact, not an opinion, the fact that the U.S. federal government, through the CIA and its intelligence services, had been running guns illegally through Libya, Benghazi, what is now known as Benghazi Gate, through the liaison of Christopher Stevens connected to the CIA, that resulted in the deaths of multiple Americans, and transferring those guns into Syria to overthrow Bashar al-Assad.
Well, some new information now about the Benghazi terror attacks that killed 4 Americans. In a Fox News exclusive, newly declassified documents are revealing more about what U.S. intelligence agencies knew in the months leading up to the 2012 attack. Our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Harris, is live in Washington with more. Catherine?
Well, Jenna, this Defense Intelligence Agency report dated October 5th, 2012, and copied to the State Department, CIA, and senior military leadership, leaves no doubt that U.S. intelligence agencies were aware that lethal weapons were being shipped to Syria via the port of Benghazi. It reads in part, quote, weapons from the former Libya military stockpiles were shipped from the port of Benghazi, Libya, to the port of Banias and the port of Borj Islam, Syria. The weapons shipped during late August 2012 were sniper rifles, RPGs, and 125mm and 155mm howitzers missiles. But in a recent interview with Fox's Brett Baer, the former acting CIA director skirted the weapons topic and what the U.S. knew about it.
Were CIA officers tracking the movement of weapons from Libya to Syria?
Can't talk about that.
Can't talk about it?
Can't talk about it.
So are you saying categorically that the U.S. government and the CIA played no role whatsoever in the movement of weapons from Libya to Syria?
Yes, we played no role. Now, whether we were watching other people do it, I can't talk about it.
That's what Benghazi Gate was. That's what Hillary Clinton had to say about raising her hands in the air when she was being questioned. What difference does it make? That was Benghazi Gate. The transference of illegal weapons of war, guns, the same missiles being used against Vladimir Putin, his tanks, his people, and his government right now in Syria. So we are at war. Let's just talk about it freely now. The United States of America is at war with Russia. It's no longer just a propaganda war. It's actually a real war. It's what they call a proxy war. There's a proxy war in Ukraine being fought by the U.S. against Russia, the Russia against the U.S. There's a proxy war being fought in Syria. It's the same type of situation. This, of course, is all leading to not just a proxy war, but a very real war. You see, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, in his second term, and a lot of his backers are hoping that Hillary gets in, so then it's basically a third term. Maybe it's questionably a fourth term since her husband, Bill Clinton, was president once. I mean, they just keep these family dynasties rolling. It's absolutely ridiculous. All this should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to serve multiple terms and have multiple family members, husbands and wives serve, and then maybe their daughters serve. I mean, there should be some limit to this. I mean, for God's sakes, if Hillary gets in as a result of the next election in 2016, and let's say she beats Trump, if Trump sticks around and is the Republican nominee, you could have a family potentially in the White House for some 16 years. I mean, almost 20 freaking years. I mean, the whole reason we had a set of rules around 2-term limits is so that you couldn't have a family dynasty, basically. You couldn't have a king and or a queen, yet that's somehow okay now in America, and they're just allowing it to happen. So basically, Barack Obama is laying the foundation and the framework before he leaves office. This is another one of his legacies. He's basically laying the foundation for World War III right now. Isn't that awesome? He's laying the foundation for that. All the death and sacrifice of young kids, men and women fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, now continuing to die in the Middle East because we haven't withdrawn. They've only stepped up the airstrikes since last year, anti-constitutionally, anti-congressionally, as of September 2014, and to this very day. He's only laying the foundation for a future war, a greater conflict in global scale. It's one of the reasons why the countless videos we've put out on this topic over the last 5 years are now going viral. If you notice, check out my video feed. I mean, every single video we even touch now is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views because people just can't believe it. I mean, they thought this was a conspiracy a few years ago. Now it's just reality. This is World War, folks. You know, also that I was thinking about over the weekend, and I think the president is leading us into that. Not only is he getting ready for World War III, again, laying the foundation for that, our war against Russia, and vice versa, bringing in the BRICS nations and other countries like China that have a middle class in China, population-wise, that is larger than the entire population of the United States of America. I mean, that is absolutely insane. But I was also thinking about guns. You know, the president and his gun control, just like he wasn't anti-war, he was pro-war. He said he'd withdraw the troops in the Middle East. He didn't do that. He's only escalated tensions. He's laid the foundation for World War III. He was arming the insurgents, the moderate terrorists on the ground, through Benghazi Gate, Libya, through the transference of weapons of war, through the CIA, the Pentagon. There's been separate instances of this, separate intelligence operations, both from the CIA, Central Intelligence, and the Pentagon, supplying guns to fight multiple wars in Syria. But also the president, I think, is soon, as he leaves office, going to do something in regards to gun control. I think that he's going to push through, potentially, I hope not, but I fear another executive action regarding guns. Which, you know, you've heard my argument before, folks. I mean, if the president wants to implement any kind of executive action regarding guns, then he needs to give up his own guns. Mr. President, if you want to come after the guns of the American people, then get rid of yours. Make sure you disarm all of your Secret Service members. Make sure that you're not protected. Make sure that every gun at the White House lawn and at the White House is removed from the scenes promptly. Make sure your children, your 2 daughters, are protected by Secret Service. That your wife isn't protected by the barrel of a gun if they're so friggin' dangerous. You know, isn't it interesting how the President of the United States can protect himself? People like Hillary Clinton can protect themselves with the barrel of a gun, but they want to get rid of our guns here in America so we can't protect ourselves. So that when there is a crazed lunatic that goes out and starts shooting people in a random city in America, nobody's armed to defend themselves except the criminal, except the insane person, except the person going around massacring others, killing civilians. So all of this, folks, is boiling to war. We are fighting a proxy war in Syria right now, soon to be a real world war. And this is basically just a part of the Obama administration, arguably the worst president America has honestly ever had in the history of this country. The most anti-constitutional, anti-congressional, anti-American president I have ever seen, who's stupefied when he's interviewed on 60 Minutes. And the interviewer, who I think asked a very keen and strong question, I applaud him for asking the question, who suggested that Putin has basically challenged Obama's leadership. You know what? America's leadership in general has been challenged. It's being challenged by the rest of the world. America has been humiliated, and it will continue to be humiliated unless we change something, unless the American people speak out, unless we take this country back, unless the American people, through this thought crime, as they frame it, and this thought revolution, can change the way that people think. That we can actually hold our politicians in Washington, D.C. accountable. That we can prosecute the criminals on Wall Street that continue to run free. The same perpetrators that committed these heinous acts and crimes that resulted in trillions of dollars worth of bank bailouts post-2008 and 2009. Unless the American people decide, and again, it's up to all of us, the great people of this country, decide to take this country back, all is lost. Honestly, you'll be fighting the next world war. The next president, maybe Hillary Clinton, will be asking that you send your child, your son or daughter, to go fight their war. Now, you won't find Chelsea Clinton on the front lines. You won't find Obama's 2 daughters on the front lines. No, they'll be protected with Secret Service in a compound somewhere for the rest of their lives. But see, this is where it's all headed, and it's not good. It's a very dangerous situation. The United States fighting a war against Russia. Russia fighting a war against the United States. The BRICS and the rising East against the crumbling West. United States, politically correct of America. It's an absolute shit show. That's the truth. Get it out everywhere. Make it viral. Hard hitting it in your face. I'm Christopher Greene, and click the link below to support our sponsor.